Mr. Becker, would you please do the invocation?
Sure. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to come here tonight and discuss the county's business. Please be with us and give us the wisdom that's needed. In Jesus' name, pray.
Amen. For the approval of the agenda without any opposition here, I'd like to move to add one item to the report of the county mayor, so it would be item B, and that is an adjustment to, this is a tax refund, I believe, correct? Or is it a penalty?
Penalty.
Got it.
Penalty and interest?
Correct. Are there any other amendments to the agenda?
So moved it up. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Do we have anybody sign up for the recognition of the public? I don't know that I've seen anybody. I did not see anybody sign up, so did anybody sign up to speak and we miss you? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, two items from my report here. The first one is, item A here is a motion to send a charitable allocation to the Bethpage Volunteer Fire Department. So a couple items here, and actually I know you and I, Mr. Long, discussed this earlier. I may hand this over to you to give a little bit of details.
I think it came down from the Highway Commission. I think Mr. Hyde was there. He's the one that asked me about it.
So handing the football over, like, here you go.
Well, this is where it ends. This is a need that was presented to us in the Highway Committee by the Southeast Bethpage Volunteer Fire Department. The roadway there, the engines, traffic to the department uses is so rutted out that, and I have not seen it myself, but a number of people have verified this to us, it's so rutted out that they sometimes wonder how the engines get in and out of there to service the community. So it was my suggestion, and this would involve Mr. Becker also. The only thing that we could think of was the fact that since the charitable allocations committee had dealt with money being allocated to volunteer fire departments, that since this has become a need between times, that we possibly refer this back to them to see if we had money left. And I don't know, Jerry, I'm thinking we had $4,000 or $5,000 left, unless some was spent after that.
2,500. There's 2,500.
Pardon?
2,500 right now.
We have 2,500 left. But it was my suggestion that this be sent back to charitable allocation committee, which would be Jerry, to pull people together to see if there's some way we could make a recommendation to help them with this.
Before we do this, is the driveway private or public property?
This is private property, but for some reason, I'm thinking that it would be legal. I don't know.
Well, that's my hope. If
I'm
it's
thinking
public,
it would
then-
be, since it's a county volunteer fire department. I'm not sure.
Well, if it's public, I would think we would be able to just, we should.
I don't believe it.
No,
is.
it's private.
It is private
property, yeah. So
Okay.
it'd have to be an allocation. I
Got it.
think.
And do we have any cost and idea what this
I
is
have
going to be?
no idea. I have not seen the drive, but there's concern that the vehicles will have great difficulty getting in and out for emergency calls.
So we're just looking at a load of gravel, or?
It's probably got
$2,500 is gravel.
Probably gravel, and we probably could twist the arm of our highway superintendent. He's so gracious about helping us with things like this, and I feel like he would help where he could to stretch the dollars to see that the highway, that the roadway would be repaired. And I'm not speaking for you, but I feel like that you would help.
Chairman, I haven't had time to go by and look at it, but I had it set up to go by tomorrow and create what I'll do is I'll build a budget and I'll send it out to all of you of a dollar amount it would take to repair it.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
So my suggestion would be that we refer this to charitable allocations, let Jerry work with the highway superintendent, and then bring us something to come back to budget.
So moved.
Second.
You're in queue. Since it's a one-off, I mean, my opinion is just, we can just handle it within this meeting. Still get the information, but I don't know if we need a committee just to, since it's just a one item. In my opinion.
You want to amend it, just to handle it here? There's a motion on the floor.
I'm making a
I'll withdraw.
Okay.
If you withdraw for a second, we can have it here.
I'd make a motion then to just add it to next month's new business,
Second.
for this committee.
And with that, we'd actually have a dollar amount for this. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next one is for Mr. Sittler's disability insurance. And so the issue here, I believe, is that we haven't been able to find, your contract requires that we have supplied disability insurance. And we haven't been able to find it under the parameters that we would need in order to meet, what is it, the 2/3 or 60%?
60%, yeah.
So that's the issue, right? A couple options, I guess. One is that I think you and I had discussed was just to turn the cash back to Mr. Sittler and strike that requirement from the contract. Well, let's do this right and get a motion on the floor for discussion.
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
What do you
Okay.
mean, just budget,
If
let
I
him keep
could give
up?
some input.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've also got an item under C, transfers. If, I'm okay with deferring this for a year with the budget so that I can use that money to support the other one and let that money be used for other personnel in the office. I don't know what would be entailed in doing that, but I don't mind foregoing that. I do not anticipate that changing. It's just, it would not be fair of me to ask you all to pay what they've been asking to provide that 60%.
So if I'm getting that correct, then you would strike that from your contract, strike the requirement for the contract for 1 year, for the first year, and then the 2,800, I think, that was allocated would go back into the the law director's overall budget.
To be used for overtime pay.
Can I say something, Mr.
Yes.
I object to that. He's being too nice about this entire situation, I think. I think we ought to deal, just my opinion, I think we ought to deal with what we have a need for in that office and not take from a benefit that is given to him. And I appreciate, I think it's very big of him to do that. But I think if he's willing to do that within the year, maybe find some form of disability insurance and then look at the issue there with the personnel, because there is a need there.
What is the amount though? I think you gave me an amount.
There's only 2,800 in there, and I think it was like 111,000 some odd dollars, and they could only find 100. Is that what they could only cover?
The 60% threshold was a problem, and for what they were asking for, the lower threshold was still pretty exorbitant.
I think it was over double that. That's what they were saying,
So we'd have to do another $2,800. I mean,
at least.
I will state that I don't like the idea of having somebody not having disability insurance either. Like, I don't like that. Mr. Mansfield. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask what the difference in the premium was, but I think you just answered that.
Go ahead.
So I mean, I guess why is this a problem now when it hasn't been a problem before?
Apparently, there's been, what I've been told is there's been big shifts in the disability coverages.
Just
That where this wasn't a problem before, very recently, it became a cost threshold issue.
So just the past 8 months, something's manifested.
Safely within the year, yes.
I mean,
But I had no knowledge of what was being done in the past. I'm just dictating it based on what I've searched.
Sure. I'm just going by the contract, which is the same pretty much, it's minimal changes, based on the previous law director, so that's why I was just curious this is what was, in December 2020 was approved and was happening, so. That's why
I don't know if that gave a dollar threshold on the contract.
But you say it's about
It
double.
didn't, so you were providing it with whatever it cost, I would assume. And I don't know what that cost was prior to me, I just know what it is now.
I'm not following what the issue is here. What do we?
They, basically, his contract says he gets approximately 60% of his gross pay for disability insurance. This came back, there's $2,800 budget, it's historically been less, but it's came back more than double that, and also they're having an issue finding the 60%. I think they want to cap it at 100, is that what Ramona told me, is that correct? And
When
it's
you
actually,
say they're fine, who's they?
well, the law director's office has been trying to find the disability insurance. They're having trouble finding somebody to underwrite it.
Oh, fine.
Right, because historically, the law director just goes out and finds them a policy
So,
and county
so
pays
how
them.
much money are we're asking for $2,800 for a premium?
Approximately.
over what we've got,
Right.
so $5,600.
And then there's the issue that he can actually get the amount promised, but that's,
What do
It's a
we
world,
need to vote on?
we would need to make a motion to, there's
So
two,
they're
the way I
willing to
see it, there's a
write- They're willing to
couple.
write up to 100,000 is what you're saying, but if, or for us to get to the 111, which is 18.5 times 4,
Yeah,
that's
111.
74,000. Is that what we're talking about?
well, it's 100, I think they said they cover them 100, but actually 60% would be about 111, so they don't quite reach the dollar, and then also it's about double of what you got in there.
Can't find the-
Do you know the exact
gotta
amount,
cover
Eric?
the
She told me
extra.
approximately double.
That's the same information I was given too, and when she got to that threshold, I said, don't worry
So
about it.
so it may be a little more than 20, she said approximately
So
double.
would it be a problem hypothetically then to amend the contract language to say up to 100,000? And then also, I mean, I'm not making the motion, I'm just saying hypothetically,
To meet his budget.
and then amend the budget to get it up there so that you meet in the middle. I mean, and I know you're not asking for that, I'm just saying,
I've never been in a position to where I've had to try to not have somebody give me money, so
Honestly, I think if you amend the
I'm
budget,
leaving it at the discretion
if you amend the
of
budget
committee
to,
here.
if you amend the budget to get his 100,000 and then Eric doesn't object to it being 100,000, I think it's fine anyway. 'Cause I think it says approximately 60%, doesn't it? Approximately 60%, so if he doesn't object to it being 100 versus 111, and you amend the budget to cover it, then it should resolve it.
I would entertain such a motion.
So moved.
okay. Any further discussion on this?
Since they said approximately, can you amend it for 3,000, because I don't know the exact amount.
That's fine.
3,000
I mean,
more.
that's your,
I made a motion, have a second.
got it.
All right, any further discussion?
Do you want to waive the second reading or not?
I'll amend that motion to waive the second reading.
Second approves?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Mayor, your report.
All right. Still working on air conditioners. I got the courthouse and the jails in, and so still working on that. As far as the breakdown on compressors, he says they vary amongst the units, so he doesn't have a specific breakdown of which is which type. So that's the update on the air conditioners. Still have that same form that I sent out. It's in your minutes. That's the one that we're working from still. One thing that we did talk about, and I didn't see it on the budget agenda, was allocating money for the chiller. Go ahead and order that.
They moved it up under the ARPA report.
Did you?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Is
chairman
that-
wanted it up there. Yeah, it's under my ARPA report.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, good.
And,
Okay, well, we'll discuss that then.
and I know you and I talked about that, and I think you said that one you might want to go to general, and I didn't move it off of here. So, I mean, we can consider it here, or we can pull it off later. I
That's
mean,
fine, we can talk about it there.
All right.
That's fine with me. And then item B, this is a gentleman or a couple that purchased a home in 2020. And for whatever reason, the bill went, well, as of January 1, when you purchase a home, as of January 1, the property tax bill goes to the owner as of January 1. So if you bought the home in February 1, it's still going to go to that original owner, the one that sold the house. So for whatever reason, he didn't get the bill and didn't pay the taxes. 2021 came and he paid 2021 and they didn't tell him about 2020. And he got to 22 and paid 22, and then they said, well, 2020 is a clerk and master. So after 2 years, it goes to the clerk and master's office. So what I'm asking for, once it goes to clerk and master, the assessor cannot do any changes to it. And what I'm asking is that you waive the penalties and interest, which was about $1,200. He paid the taxes, but he just didn't feel that it was right to pay the penalties and the interest for this.
And court costs. There's some court costs on there too, probably.
That's the only amount that he gave me, was the $1,200.
Because we ran into that one time, there's court costs.
I don't see court costs on here.
Okay.
So it may be included in that $1,200.
Yeah, it's got delinquent attorney tax fee.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Where's that?
DT base tax.
Oh, is that the DT?
Well, there's one that says, that's the base tax, and there's one that says DT attorney fees, $259.80. So what else he asking for? What
The
else?
$1,200, what's written there?
1221.
What's it?
That's this, 12/21/14.
Which is making which ones is what I was trying to.
Mr. Becker?
Is there, so my understanding, right, is he just forgot that didn't need to pay taxes?
Well, the bill went to a different address,
Mhm.
and, you know, you can take two lines of thought on this. One is, by law, statutorily, we're not required to send out tax notices. It's incumbent upon the property owner to know that. The other side of it is that we've always sent out property tax notices, so everybody expects the property tax notice. And he assumed that everything was paid already. And so he just, what's that?
Who do you think paid his taxes?
Well, in all of the closing paperwork,
Oh,
yeah,
I would have assumed that too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Was this a,
And then in 2021, you know, when he went there to pay his 2021, they should have notified him
And they didn't.
and they did, but they should have notified him that 2020 was delinquent.
Yep.
Because you get a delinquent tax notice.
was
Mr. Mansfield?
just a little, like, when you give an example of January and February, was that hypothetical or?
Oh, that was hypothetical. It's anybody that buys in the year after January 1, it's going to go to that owner as of January 1.
Even if they bought it in October, it'll still go to that.
Looking at. There's like 1,100 and something with the attorney's fees.
I'll make a motion
To waive it?
to waive it.
We can,
Okay.
we can total that up, whatever. I wrote down the number that he had told me.
If you take the 3769.14 minus the 2598 base comes to 1171.14, which would include the interest, the filing fees.
I mean, it's not material.
Clerk's fee, yeah.
We're talking about like $50 difference.
I think refund everything but the base tax would
My only
be.
reservation would be if it's setting some type of precedent.
Yeah, that-
Or take advantage of it.
Is this, if we do, yeah, that's right, like,
I don't have anything right in here.
are we signing ourselves up to basically, by precedent, requiring ourselves to,
My question would be, have you ever taken the position, I'm not required to send a notice?
Yeah.
So if you've taken that position, then I don't see you've got much wiggle room here. You're deviating from your,
if we waive it?
not to say that I can see where the mayor's coming from, but if you've made that a point in the past, then it needs to continue to be a
Yeah.
point.
And really, it's, all of these, and I hate to use the word case by case, but, you know, in the assessor's office, all of this is subjective. You know, y'all vote on refunds every month. That's basically a subjective decision. Some of it's a TMA audit, some of it's where they come in and we found an error that we've done. I'm taking the position that they didn't tell them about it. I feel on this particular one, it's the right thing to do. And I wouldn't say that on every case.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor. I think, if they would have let him know the next time he paid taxes, then his penalties would have been much, much lower. And so I think it was crossing of wires, and I think we can take the hit here.
I'm assuming when you say they, you mean the trustee's office.
Yeah, it would have been overlooked in the trustee's
Would it be
office,
like
which,
a new employee or something like that where it would require a little
Yeah,
additional
they
training
could've-
to notify them?
well, they could have looked at at a different screen. I don't know how their system works. But yeah, I mean, it could, I talked to Cindy about this, and it's not a big deal.
Mr. Smith?
It could be, just from when I inspected homes previously, a lot of times things get lost in a big stack of paperwork. And I think, well, if I'm guessing here, but I think that might have been the case here. I mean, we used to have to go out and rebill 100 inspections we did because our invoice was lost in all that paperwork. And I'm thinking that may be what happened here. So I think a case-by-case basis is.
I get it. Well, we gotta make a decision one way or the other. Any other?
You got a motion, you got a second motion?
All right.
All in favor of waiving? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously.
Question is the interest, penalty, and all the filing fees in court, or just interest and penalty? Because I'm looking here, there's interest and penalties only $857.34. The filing fees are $440, clerk fees 10, and then the delinquent attorney fees $259.80. Because there's only been 2 of these that I've seen since I've been here 14 years. And the first time we only did the interest and penalties and not the court costs, so that's why I'm asking. And it was because there was something really unusual about it.
What was your,
Do you recall what was very unusual?
I just remember the lady came several times and she said that it blowed out of the box out here. And I think they finally paid it after she came a couple of times. But that's all I recall because it's been, I guess that's probably been 10 years maybe.
My motion was to include it all.
all right.
We've already voted, you have to vote to reconsider. if you want to do
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I don't think we got any of that. Anybody wants to
If he
move to
said it
reconsider?
all, then
Okay.
We'll keep that for the minutes and for the amounts.
Let me get the sheriff.
So, all right, moving on here to report of finance director for a budget hearing dates. Go ahead, Mr. Long. I know you and I talked about it, and then I'll move. Well, actually, let's do it right. Entertain a motion for
So moved.
discussion.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, go ahead.
On the budgetary timeline, we had May 1st through May 26th. That's when we usually have meetings, the way we can meet at June 30. Historically, they've had 2 about 8-hour meetings, but if you really want to go through the agenda, you're probably going to need a lot more than 16 hours because that's a rush and you don't really go deep into it.
I had a suggestion when you and I spoke earlier today, and that is recognizing that Monday would be very difficult to set things up on during these meetings. That we take Thursday and Friday after work hours, with Friday a little bit earlier. So Thursday, 5:30 to 8:30 Central, and then Friday, 4:30 to 8:30 for the entire month of May. So that gives us plenty of time to do this. So we would try to get through, you said you needed about 16 hours to get through all of it.
Quickly.
Well, right, but if we did that during the first 2 weeks, that's roughly 14 hours. So 3 on Thursdays times 2, 4 on Fridays times 2, so 7 times 2. That gets us through an initial look and then leaves us the entire back half of the month to review again. That was a suggestion I had.
So you're suggesting, you said 5:30 to 8:30 on Thursday?
No, 5:30 to 8:30, 5:30 to 8:30 Thursday.
4:30 to 8:30 on Friday, but that's Thursday, Friday, 4th and 5th, 11th, 12th,
Yes.
18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th. I mean, I knew coming into this that people would take 2 days off. I mean, I planned for 2 vacation days, but I mean, if we could, reduce that time, I mean, I'm fine, understanding, but 2 all-day sessions might be helpful in addition.
We can do it that way too.
I don't know what everybody's schedule is, but every Thursday and Friday for a month, in May might be, I'm going out of town one of those weekends.
I mean, that might be a better way to do it.
So on the 5th, like, that Friday, 5th, 6th, and 7th, I've got it for a family graduation, so I won't be here on that Friday. So I know I'll miss that day. That's me personally.
And that's in
But
addition
if
to
we
the
do it-
budget meeting. that we-
Yeah, it would be in addition, but but what we talked about is that 16 hours, may not be enough. So if we're gonna do it that way, I'd wanna stack that at the beginning.
Sure, I would propose keeping with the 2-day full days, and then
As
see how we-
needed.
then if we need to add on 2 more days or 2 more, 3 or 4 more evenings, that would be my recommendation. But
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out there.
And
So-
if you're going to the back end of May, you're gonna run into more, Memorial Day.
Day weekend, which is the 26th.
People
so-
gonna be out of town.
What's that, the 5th and the 6th?
You're pushing it
We would
toward
do
the
that.
run.
No, Memorial Day weekend is gonna be
No.
Friday, May 26th.
5th and the 6th that you would recommend doing the,
No, May the 5th is a Friday and the 6th is a
sorry,
Saturday.
3rd,
I'm
4th.
I won't be here.
4th and, so you're out the 4th and the 5th. Or you're at the 5th.
5th, for sure.
If you do the 2 full days, you need extra time. Have you considered possibly moving budget to a Tuesday in May also, and pulling it a little earlier, the way you can have a much longer budget too? Pulling in like 5:30 all the way to, you get a long day there too. There's 2 full days and then a long night. That'll drive you some hours there possibly.
So you're saying on normally budget would be Monday the 8th, you're talking about moving it to Tuesday the 9th.
Ninth, and then pull your time back earlier, like 5:30, and then you'd have 5:30 to 9:30 and 10:30.
This is gonna be very
In
difficult.
addition to
do.
the 2, that's why we usually talk about that, because it's usually
Yeah,
a lot
no.
of difficulties.
Yeah, no, I get it.
What they all day.
Well, we both all knew going into this,
Yeah,
we
we
had 2
gotta-
days of budget workshop, right?
it's gonna be
And
hardcore.
Everybody's prepared for that.
What the budget
Yeah,
workshops
so-
usually
Tuesday.
5 to 10 minutes
Well,
an
no,
hour
I'm
to get them
I'm
through.
just talking about like, if we said 2 days.
And we time them, that way we can get them through, and then at the end, you guys can bring them back in and
I'm not
or
opposed to that.
just make changes and then have hearings. So
Um,
historically, what they've done back on the regular budget meeting, they had hearings for
I
changes.
mean, I'll tell you, if we're gonna do it that way, I'd rather do it on that first Thursday and Friday and still have the month, so you could do, or you could bump it to Tuesday.
Thursday, Friday, up to Tuesday, get you a lot of
And
days.
bump it to Tuesday, that way you can have 5:30 to,
9:30.
Why don't-
9:30, and then also do Thursday, Friday,
Why don't you do, why is it Thursday, Friday? I'm just curious.
because Friday's a lot easier for most people. I know it's easier for me.
Okay.
And it's,
I mean,
Friday is, well, actually, no, if we're taking days off, so I mean,
I mean,
then it would do,
And then
Why don't
ours
you-
don't go off till 11. Wednesday alone.
Why don't you, I mean, if you want to move to a Tuesday, I don't know,
We could do-
Mr. Becker, if Tuesdays, is all Tuesdays out for you? Or just,
Tuesday nights? I mean,
like,
well, it'd be all
what
day
about Tuesday the
Tuesday.
2nd, you have a special called budget meeting, you move it up a week to the 2nd that night, and then Wednesday and Thursday, the 3rd and 4th, you have all day workshops.
We could do it that way too. So Tuesday,
I'm just throwing out, or you do it the next week.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, it's a day,
Okay.
not Wednesday night.
Okay.
It's all those, the day workshop.
I mean, there's not gonna be a perfect solution here, so we might just,
I mean, you can be there, I mean, I'm just, if you wanted to move to a Tuesday night, have budget, and then Wednesday and Thursday and have workshop.
do we wanna do this? Do we wanna
Get Jessica to send times.
send times, like, everybody can just send their, and we'll just,
That's probably an
just,
easy thing.
that, as opposed to trying to spend an hour here getting this all down.
My wife's not
So
answering.
basically, you want 2 full day meetings and then 1 long night.
I think we should stick with that, because that's what we've always
I'm
done.
fine with that.
2 full days and 1
And it's
long
during business
night.
hours when people can come in from
Yeah.
departments. I mean,
That way you could have your regular 2-hour budget, another 2 hours on your budget,
Yeah.
your budget.
Yeah, we do another night or 2, we can do 2 or 3 extra nights.
I'd rather, I'd rather,
You agree?
I'd rather keep our normal budget.
Okay.
Have the 2 days, and then if we need a 3rd day, or even a couple nights, like moving, I don't know, the getting into the nights is the issue for me more so than.
Well, so if we're
taking a day
doing,
off
so
work.
I get it, so we can keep the normal.
2 days
The 2 days,
during the day.
right, and then we would have, the question is, which week and what days on those weeks? And then when would we bump the budget meeting to like a Tuesday, so we get a little more beef then? The only thing I would suggest then is I would want it within those first 2 weeks, so that we've got flex time if we need more. So can we come up with like option A, option B,
Yeah.
and send to this group?
First 2 weeks in May.
First 2 weeks in May.
We get options if you don't, Tuesday, May the 2nd, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, 3rd, 4th, if you're talking, that's the first week. And that's, because Monday nights are, we already have a slate of meetings, but then you do.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Tuesday, and then it'll be the next week.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, the next week you could do,
Well, you could do Monday normal, and the next week, that's the 8th.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, the next weekend you could do, the next week you do.
But you ain't starting it early, and the budget starts at 7.
Right.
So,
The 15th 's commission.
the 15th.
Yeah, 15th commission, so couldn't do that.
How about if they just, everybody sends their availability on the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And then
we'll
we
do
try
the
to
best we
match up
can.
the most people we can, and then she'll send them back.
That's what
It may
we'll
be
do.
better not to have them 2 days in a row anyway. That way, if you have a small workshop at the end of the first day,
Let's
second
just,
day,
let's
then
just
we-
do that, well, do we need to, I don't know that we need a motion to do this. Let's just, everybody send your availability, we'll do it
Okay.
2 full days. There will be 2 full days, send your favorite options. Has everybody got that?
Got it.
Graduation.
Okay. Okay, next item, which I think is a little more interesting.
Yeah, that's the actual 2024 budget, and there needs to be a discussion on the tax rate, as far as what the providing school projections, and then the Facebook pilot and the new courthouse and the
I would
ARPA.
entertain a motion for discussion here,
Second.
and I'd like to get in queue.
This is B, discussion.
This is B. So, Mr. Long, we discussed earlier, I think the idea here is that in order to build the budget, you need some general guidance.
Right.
And I would like to submit for discussion the following general guidance. For the general fund, we're currently sitting at 47.87 pennies,
Plus 4.59.
plus a 4.59.
Right.
But we would keep the 47.87 and the .0.459. We would add on 2 additional cents, 2 additional pennies for the ARPA salary burn-off.
Are you on,
Um,
back up, where are you?
So you'd need to get, do we have a copy of the budget for everybody?
Okay.
Yeah, it's the sheet out of the budget, which has
Yep.
the tax rate last year.
It's this guy right here. This guy.
Let me go through the column, what's on there.
Yeah, go ahead and go through the columns. We're familiar with it.
If
so.
you look at this sheet, this was in your budget, it's on page 5. If you go to the bottom half, the very first column is actually the description of the fund, and the second one says prior year rate. If you look going all the way across, there were several adjustments to the prior year rate. The prior year rate started at .4787 for general fund, and then there was a permanent 4.59 cents added in there for the salary survey, which will need to stay to keep the fund even in balance where it's currently at. If you look at the next middle 3 columns, it says one-time fire department donation that was taken out of debt service, one-time 386 match for over here out of debt service, and then there was 10.8 cents moved from general debt down to capital. Those need to be readjusted whether you want your permanent allocation of the rates, knowing that you at least need the .47 and the .459. A couple of things that has been discussed that was not on here is you're opening a brand new Justice Center next year. There is a Facebook pilot coming on, and there was discussion several times, because you have quite a bit of debt coming off next year, that you are going to need additional funds to open up your new courthouse because of utilities, probably guards and other items that are going to come into that thing. And then also, as the chairman's mentioned, we've got the ARPA and a few other items that really need to be dealt with.
But you're thinking the debt rolling off is gonna help to offset the cost of the opening of the Justice Center?
Several things. You have next year $5 million worth of recurring debt. We can't leave this whole, every bit of these part-time funds, you know, the 2 cents, the 3.85, and the 10.8 out. That's about $11 million, but 11 million means to go back minus 5 million to make your debt service break even.
So here's the thoughts on this. At least here's some thoughts I had on it. The 47.87 has to stay where it is. The .0459 has to stay where it is to keep existing salaries where they're at.
Keep the county
That
whole.
keep the county whole. What can move is the one-time fire department donation and one-time highway match. Those can come off,
And then one time to complete the school.
and the one-time complete school construction. Those can come off. However, we would need to add 2 pennies roughly to start. The ARPA burn off that we have is about 4 pennies. I think that's right, a little bit more. So we're gonna burn that off over 2 years.
And that's for the salaries for the EMS?
The salaries for EMS and sheriff.
Yeah, they got,
So in order to keep them whole, next year, we're gonna burn it down over time. So instead of cutting it off all at once, what we would do is add 2 pennies next year, and then the following year, it's gonna be a little bit more than 2 pennies, because I'll talk about this in just a minute, but a little bit more than 2 pennies each year, so we don't eat it all at once. So we'd move 2 pennies, it's basically moving the one-time fire donation right over there, except now it would become recurring, to start to burn that off. Salary survey is kept, and then 1.5 pennies. We talked about, what was the 1.5 pennies for that we were?
That was to open up the new courthouse.
Oh, that was for the courthouse. 1.5 pennies to open up the courthouse. So you would have about 56 cents total toward the general fund. General guidance here. And the idea is that keeps everybody whole, and we think, and this is would be some guidance also to put out to the departments, targeting a 2% cost of living increase. Roughly. Is that somewhat within our general estimates here?
Yeah, we'll look at it.
So that's for general. For highway, start with maintenance of effort. For school, start with maintenance of effort. And for cap projects, 11.24 cents.
And the remainder all going to debt service.
That's right. And then a little bit of excess will actually uptick the debt service slightly.
Right. Well, the 10 cents will go back to debt service and part of that 3.5.
Now look, I recognize, and this is why I've been very draconian on looking at this. This is why we all have been. This year is a bit tight, but if we do this, next year we have, there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? Next year we have, what, $10 million rolling off?
Go 10.
Off the debt?
Off the debt. So this keeps the county whole, would give everybody not a big raise, but gives them a little bit. We actually help a little bit on debt service, but what it would require is no additional, the assumptions going into this are no new employees, no new bonds. So that's my thought for general guidance. I would throw that out there.
and no tax increase.
No tax increase.
So, so your debt, right now, our debt service is down to 12 pennies. So we're talking about going up to roughly 22, 23 cents on debt service for next year, whereas prior we were about 34 cents a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yep. So we'll start burning down our debt faster.
Well, yeah, but
Build reserves.
not as fast as.
It's better than what we got.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? What is a penny worth?
About
Around
675,000.
That's real close.
About 670,000, I think. Maybe a little less.
And you're thinking with a penny and a half, we can open that monstrous size building over there?
That was kind of what we're looking at. That's just the starting point. We'll have to look at it.
But you're also
closer.
getting the additional from the pilot.
Pilot, so you may need
So there's
to-
another million.
You may need to redistribute some additional funds. The Facebook pilot agreement should be coming on at some point. The first building's around $1 million, but it won't all be county. Part of it will be the city of Gallatin too.
Right.
We'll
Well,
pull in.
we would have, if worst comes to worst, we're putting a lot more toward debt service.
You can still pull some back if that doesn't do it. The penny and a half's where I think you should start looking and then see where you're at from there. Because you're gonna be
Have you
building.
had any preliminary talks with the sheriff about how many personnel will be needed to operate that place?
And that's what Matt said, the assumption is no new staff, so if there's no staff, then we will need
We'll have to
to
revisit.
revisit the pennies.
There will be new staff, because we talked to Sonny last week, and he thought he needed.
There would be several people that
Yeah.
you would need.
Then you're thinking, what about cleaning the building? I don't know if we're gonna need another person.
Well, that and security, that is a huge building. Not only an unnecessary building, but a huge building.
Then you've got all the utilities and the reinsurance on it too, right off that we know about. There
I mean,
should be a lot of maintenance the first couple of years with builder's warranties, but
Yeah,
we-
still,
they're gonna
things still
clean
break.
and fix little stuff.
We've got a little-
Light switches.
You're gonna need 2 custodians.
What we'll need for this, I mean, is it, you know, these were, what we were trying to come up with in your office over the last, thinking through this, is just general guidance here, starting point. And there,
I think it's a good
I mean,
start.
it's,
a
you know,
good-
if we have to have new personnel, which is a very good point to open this up, then that's fine. That just means you start as lean as we can, and then, you know, all of that gets, we've got as much cushion as we can into debt service, which we've got built up a lot more, 10 extra cents, right? So,
Why don't we go and look at, well, you gotta think last year we showed $11 million worth of reserves being used. You had, if you moved every penny back, it was exactly 11, but you had 5 that could come out, and you moved some today, so you've got a net of probably $1 million or $2 this year.
Right.
And you got the 10 next
And-
year. I think the simplest thing would be to run with the 56 cents right now. Because me and the mayor will be working on the utilities closer. His maintenance men will be talking to the sheriff, so we can come back and show you what the estimated total cost for security, maintenance, cleaning, reinsurance, and utilities. Am I missing anything? I can't think of anything else right now.
here's the
IT's gonna be something you're gonna have to work on too.
initial costs or recurring, one time or,
Yeah. Having a person.
I mean, well,
Now, I know it may not happen.
I mean,
Yeah,
well, here's the thing, I'm putting out, I know how this is gonna work.
Yeah.
I'm putting this guidance out for everybody here, and everybody's gonna give me back everything they want.
Now,
And then we'll fight over it.
Yeah, I will tell you that at the meeting earlier with the emergency district, they voted to hire an IT person to help in their area, which will relieve some of the burden of our office. So we'll be secondary to them. So that probably will relieve that person.
Okay.
Needing one.
I mean, you know, I'm not saying, I'm not telling any department they can't ask for what they want. Go
But
ahead.
it won't be a
Go ahead.
windfall, because 911 will be paying us less. You know, they pay us for IT right now, they probably won't pay us as much.
Ms. Harrison?
Question and maybe a
They did cut
follow-up
that.
on the opioid money.
Mhm.
How would we be allowed to use that as it relates to opening the Justice Center?
I think it's more toward drug rehab and drug rehabilitation is what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't think it's completely went all the way through the determination right now.
Okay, then my follow-up would be, but we're already allocating money for those programs. Can we pull some of that to help open the Justice Center?
The drug court right now runs on alcohol, DUI, and drug fees and state grants, so no, but the long-term projections in the drug court, we've always been concerned is it's viable, it will help keep it going longer.
Okay.
But the thing is, right now, they're still determining what it can be used for, so it may be able to use for a few additional things, we just don't know right now. And it's leaning heavily toward
Here's-
drug treatment of some type,
It's more treatment, education type activity.
but it's not been finalized at this
But
point.
no.
So we
Here's
don't
a,
want to
here's a
take-
lesson, here's the broad lesson I'm taking, like digging into all this. And I'm trying to summarize it for everybody, and I do want to say this, just because I think it's important for like general thought. We can have nice, pretty buildings and nice new equipment, because everything that we buy, that we have to take a bond out for, has to be serviced with recurring funds. Those are your buildings, that's your nice things. We can have nice things like that. We can have good, solid raises for people, or we can avoid tax increases. Pick two. That, I mean, seriously, that is the truth of the matter here. Those three things. If you're talking about recurring stuff, take out bonds for nice things, pay your people, increase taxes, or avoid tax increase. Pick two. So that's what we're trying to mitigate here, because we do have a lot of bonds that we have to service right now. So I don't know that we need a vote on this.
I will just run with, if everybody's okay with starting with that, the general parameters, we'll start there.
And because it doesn't preclude people. I mean, people come back and ask for 8% raises. You know, they can ask for what they want.
Ultimately, when the budget's approved, you guys will approve a budget, appropriation resolution, and a tax rate to recommend to the county commission.
Mr. Mansfield.
So I'm just, so the past several years, up until this budget year, the general fund, we've been roughly at 0.4787. And now we're talking about permanently bumping that up to 50.56.
Yeah, because last year they did the raises because they were so far below market, they put almost.
And this is between that salary survey and the ARPA funds, we have effectively already done that.
Those two are your big.
That is
And
baked in
opening,
now.
and opening.
So I'm just making that statement.
Yep.
just in 2
So
years,
basically,
it jumped up that much.
the three things that's driving your redistribution is, as he said, the salary survey from last year, the ARPA funds from last year, and then it started a couple years ago when opening your Justice Center.
Well, I mean, with the Justice Center, I mean, those are questions I asked, and I did not vote for the Justice Center because these questions were not asked. The ones we're facing right now, where is the money gonna come from for the recurring expenses of the effort to?
A lot of the talk was around ultimately using the Facebook money, but
But
we're
that's-
building
what
one
is that?
some.
I mean, I'm not, but here's the thing, I'm not accounting for a lot of magic money here. 56 cents minimum is what this is gonna be costing. I mean, the way I view this is that has already been baked in. We just kind of, we're able to obfuscate it and kick the cans down the road with one-time funds from ARPA. It's baked in.
We may want to ask the mayor if he can talk to the IDB and or Gallatin about when we may see the first payment on Facebook. I've contacted both of them and I haven't really heard anything back at this point.
I can pull the document tomorrow and
Oh,
look at it.
I've got
give
the
them a
doc.
call.
I've got the doc. I think it says completing phase one, the first building, but I never did get a completion date versus the first payment. I've contacted both of them and haven't. And then we can kind of bake it in.
How much is that payment supposed to be when it comes in?
I think the first building, and I'd have to go back and look, I think it's $1 million, but that would be Gallatin and the county, based on the tax rates.
Okay.
And then there's a second phase, there's like all these phases, and you get
Is there a
dollar.
cutoff for that money coming in, or is that just in perpetuity? So is that
It's several years for the pilot agreement, but after your pilot agreement they would be
It goes
taxable.
up.
normal tax?
They would be taxable
It's just
unless,
that, it's just
that's
a
the-
low
unless they
cap.
abandoned the building and got rid of
That's the
personal
floor.
property to the right.
That's just asked the lowest.
Unless it, the whole thing falls.
Unless they abandon it, it becomes worthless.
Right.
But
You
yeah,
said that was Gallatin and the county?
well, it's yeah,
What's
because.
percentage?
Just
Well,
should be.
that's the county's
because-
percentage, not the total.
No, that's the total.
That'd be
$1
the
million.
So
total.
we don't know.
Well, it would be their tax rate and our tax rate together. Our proportional share is what we would be looking at.
But we don't have the exact dollar on that yet. But this is.
I'd have to know their tax rate.
We're,
I'd go get it.
we're discussing this, we're building this out with assuming that
It doesn't come, we haven't put that
doesn't
in.
come.
So
That's
that
right.
she probably
I'm
gonna
being
need to
like- we're being
you're
super
probably gonna need to
conservative.
redistribute that in there for the opening of the building. That's probably the other piece that Mr. Hyde's kind of pointing toward too. There's a little disparity there, but that's probably when we met with the pilot.
I commend the chairman in what you have come up with. You've got to have a beginning point. We're not going to have much money this year, and I think this is a great start.
But if we buckle down this year, and the idea is that everybody is kept whole, we burn off the one-time funds, everybody gets a cost of living increase. It will not be what it makes everybody happy, but everybody gets something. And then next year, the light starts to get at the end of the tunnel, right? Because next year we have more debt falling off, and we'll be able to reallocate more toward debt service, and we'll build on ourselves over time and, kind of dig ourselves out, assuming we, don't take on more giant projects. So.
won't.
So.
I'm committed to it.
So any other discussion here? Mr. Wine?
The next one is actually, and it's just a small discussion because we'll bring you guys in comparison. Last year, mentioned the same thing, they did the salary survey and they gave everybody titles. This year, we noticed there's a lot of retitling for positions and requests for changes in positions. Just want to make sure does the committee want us to flag all those changes for you? And I think the obvious answer is yes. The next one's the Portland Airport grant match. There's $135,271. There's an email in there, and I actually have a request right now for a grant match from the Portland Airport for amount.
Mr. Wine?
35.
Go ahead.
Could I just real quickly back up to, because I'm familiar with the school system when we went through this, but not county general. What are the breaks on numbers on C? In other words, I realize that a way of getting a raise is calling yourself something else and writing it up with a lot more responsibility, and all of a sudden you have doubled your salary.
Mm-hmm.
What are the breaks? What breaks do we have on this?
We don't. That was one of the reasons they were looking at doing the salary survey, because each year after year, people were coming in asking for raises in some departments. appeared to be having more and more supervisors. So that's one reason that there was a discussion, well, just to be fair, and I'm not mentioning a particular anybody, but that was one of the reasons they did look at doing the salary survey.
Well,
To
I mean,
give all these grades and classes,
But
now
the
people.
salary survey, from experience, the salary survey opens more doors than you'll ever be able to shut back.
There's no real mechanism there either. They just basically go on the description you give for your employee based on what your office does. So they will look at what other counties have some, but if you come in and say you need this many of that and it requires this and this and that, they'll take a lot of that on the
Then
face
who
value.
makes that judgment?
Nobody does. It's
The
within-
personnel director?
They weren't,
Well,
they didn't.
I mean, who says you get a salary increase? Who
It
is
came
it?
by these, it ultimately came through what they were classified on the salary survey. That's basically, everybody turned in a job description, a job class, all the requirements for the job, and they graded it based on other businesses and counties. But the thing that I noticed is I'm not sure, the same thing you're asking, what mechanism determined that the description of the employee was accurate. I don't think there was one.
And the reason I'm concerned about this is because it could be a very unfair situation between one department and another if one learns to work it very well. And I would like to see us think about sometime in the future, and I'm not going to dwell on this anymore tonight, but we need to examine this system very closely, I think, and make sure that it's fair, that there are brakes that can be applied and guardrails to it, and that the train doesn't get off the track.
That's why I mentioned for us to show all the changes that
Okay.
are happening. At least the committee will be aware.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, or I guess I'm the chair on this one, but Mr. Chairman, I think the big break that we've got this year is that, this committee and the overall budget. I mean, that ultimately is the
Yes.
final break, right? I mean, we can call yourself whatever you want, but unless this commission tells you you're getting paid more for it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask again, can we get a list of loaded costs of employees?
We will have that at the budget hearing soon.
Oh, bless you.
It'll be all the way across. Every budget meeting we have we will click, and for instance, it'll go to the sheriff's department. It'll show every sheriff position, what they're making, how much Social Security, Medicare, retirement, and their total cost of life.
Awesome.
And we'll print those for you. Right now, they're in the process of being updated, is why we can't.
I'm with you.
And they'll be on the screen, and that's the way we've historically done it. We've had it on the screen. The committee's been able to adjust stuff on the fly, cost of living, salary raises, be able to remove them. We actually have them on Excel, and the committee can move them on the fly.
Okay, great.
So we're back on the airport.
The Portland Airport, about 2015 or 16, I don't remember the exact date, the county commission approved to take $250,000 from the hospital fund to give for the Portland Airport for grant matches for them to use whatever the amount they need each year and for it to be pulled forward. Right now, there's $135,271 of that money left, but none of it has been appropriated because none of it was appropriated last year. Right now, I have a request from the, which I received today, from the actual airport for $1,095 disbursement for the airport, but I have nothing appropriated at this point. And plus, I have the email I had earlier on page 25, kind of discussing it from the airport manager. He was asking about it.
I'll entertain a motion for discussion or for approval or disapproval.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Floor is open.
Are we approving the 135,271 or the 1,095?
The 1,095. Mr. Chairman, I'll get it to Q because
Go
I
ahead.
talked to the airport director. What this is an opportunity to do some initial survey for some additional property acquisition to increase their safety boundary. That's what this is meant. And there's going to be another one, another appropriation request come back probably August, September, somewhere right in there.
What's the match?
The initial.
What's the match? 2 to 1, 3 to 1?
I think it's, actually, I think it may be 90%.
I'll read
Oh,
you
wow.
the amount right here. They're showing right now a match of 1,095, and they're showing state for 20,805. So it's
Yeah, it's something.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like a
So-
95.
Phenomenal, yeah.
Okay.
This is initial like engineering.
And this
survey,
is just
that
for the
kind of thing.
1,000?
Yes. But this is coming off that additional 135, so it'll still leave them with 134 or something that's not been allocated as of yet.
And I apologize for not having this. I had the 135 in the attached email. I actually got this today,
Got it.
requesting a disbursement from the 135. And I thought I'd go ahead and, since we're discussing it, bring up the amount they've
I've been
asked for.
pretty frugal with it, if that's all.
So
they're
it's, yeah,
asking, since
so it's,
15.
it's a motion for $1,000 with the 20, basically a 20-to-1 match. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've heard enough. I've heard enough. Any other discussion?
I mean, this item is for $135,270. I'm on agenda item D.
Yeah.
We're on the same agenda item?
There's reserves left. There was a $250,000 allocated. There's $135,271 left. I put the $135,271 to tell the committee how much is left of that reserve because he was discussing the 30. I actually received the bill, I believe it was today, for $1,095 for a grant.
So it's $1,095 out of that 135.
That's right.
When did we, as a commission, approve this appropriation?
It was 2015 or 16, and I think they did it through the original budget, but I'd have to go back and
So
look.
it's been that long since this $250,000 was committed?
Yes, and then they mentioned when they did it, they let it roll each year, whatever was left over. Basically, they would do a grant match and then roll what was left over.
It's coming up before, that's what I was asking. Well, how much is left in our hospital fund since we put the $250 back?
I think it's, and I'd have to go back, I think we're probably looking somewhere around a little over $1 million.
Back in the hospital fund? Okay, it was like 465 at the end of.
Yeah, there was, but I think there was some money we had appropriated didn't get spent too.
Okay,
But
so
I can
we're
get you
back
the
up.
exact amount. It's probably around $1 million. It could be give or
Okay,
take.
that's good, better than I thought.
I do remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I definitely remember voting.
I think it was 16, but it could have been 15.
Any other discussion on this? All in favor of the motion for $1,000 out of the $1,059 out of this?
95.
$1,095, sorry. Out of this 135,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second reading, do you want to waive it or?
Yes.
All right, we'll do that again, just with the waiver. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
The next item is actually the committee approval, and it's actually an email on page 26 to Matt. And me and him haven't really had a chance to talk about
No,
that.
we
Can we
haven't.
put that to next month,
Yeah,
just for time's sake tonight also?
I would move to defer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
The revenue analysis, the trustee has to the 10th to send it
We're at
to
the
us.
ARPA analysis.
I'm sorry, the ARPA's right in front of the review, I'm sorry, I did grab it. Here is the ARPA analysis, and I'll go through it real quickly.
So this is what we requested.
And they have the April 15th to come up with final amounts, so there's some without amounts. Jimmy, go down the whole spreadsheet?
I
or
think
how
we
you-
would, I think it would make sense to go down, starting at the economic development one, because that's, I think we're aware of everything north of that is stuff that we've,
Yeah, I think you're right.
everything below is net new. We may have heard of it, we may not have. I know it all goes into one big bucket.
The first economic development, I just highlighted in red because it was in your original budget.
Yep.
And it's not really been discussed and we haven't received anything. I'm assuming that project, because it's appropriate, not been stopped at this point, it's still moving forward, but I haven't heard a whole lot. And the mayor might know something about it or may not. On the grant for Ford Sumner on the 60,000, is it still moving forward? I don't know if he knows any-
Yeah, as of right now, okay.
Yeah, that's not the one that, the other,
That was
which are the
one-
next two.
That was one in the original budget. The next two are the ones that he sent back to ask for reconsideration. It's the 100,000 and the 410. And they're actually, all the documentation requesting is attached. The next one is the highway asking for the tractors. The number from the state bid right now is 384,378. And that has been through the highway committee at this point, is my understanding. The next one is the Oak Grove Volunteer Fire Department. They did send a request through the county engineer, and the estimate of it's $406,696. Gallatin Library has asked for carpet, which they have estimated $1,500. Westmoreland some drainage, $2,500. ECC an alert system, but they did not have the amount, but they said they would have it by the 15th. General sessions and probation's asking for new computers around $6,000. Sumner County Fire Bus is asking for a reoccurring cost of insurance, but they did not provide the amount. The Sheriff's Department's asking for a mini micro link between, I believe, the courthouse, and it's $50,000. A biometric system, they said, was $3,400 per door, but they're still working on how many doors. The Sheriff's camera system, 1.5 for their existing, and They're asking to remodel the general sessions courtroom for, they're still trying to determine that amount, and then the men chiller for $287.01. The important number, if you go all the way down, is it's a negative 1.772, 265. So if all those were funded at this point, there's actually not enough funding for all those.
Question on the remodeling of general sessions, is that in the new building or the old building?
The old building. I think they wanted to remodel it to use it. I think he has it in his email. He may be.
Okay, I mean, look, whatever we want, this was, we asked everybody to put the pile in there, and they did.
And he actually has an email giving more detail on it.
All right.
And it was sent from Eric Craddock, the chief deputy, and I'm sure he'd be happy to.
No, that's fine. We can-
My understanding is it's for the old general sessions courtroom that they're wanting to utilize.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, did I miss something? I thought we did not approve the forward Sumner money.
We
He's
did not,
requested it.
and he requested to put it into back into the pile, and I said, fine. I mean,
I got it.
we didn't approve the highway equipment either. We put it in there, so.
And then I did try to divide group 1 and 2 a little more, even though they're not for a particular.
So we need to wait on this to get actual numbers here.
Yeah, they had the April 15th on
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
these
right.
numbers. But the one that I think the mayor was talking about too was the one for the chiller. They requested it to come initially from local capital. But we put it up into here, and I think his concern was that it's, what they've been told, it's about on its last limb, and it's a 40-week lead time, what they've told us.
Lead time.
When we will have to bid it too in addition to that, so it'll be a while.
Okay. I guess I only had one question here, and I know this is just a report, but, Mr. Mayor, do you want this here, or do you want that chiller in, to be considered separately?
Well, actually, yeah, I would like for it to be considered separately and considered now. We can take it out of capital projects and leave that money, 'cause we have the funds in our capital budget to go ahead and get that ordered and get it in.
I mean, we'd have to amend the agenda today to do that. I'm fine to consider that if somebody wants to make a motion
I'll
to.
move to amend the agenda.
And the amendment is to take the chiller out and to put it into the agenda today. We put it at the end of your report.
Put it as item J.
So did we get a second? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We'll consider that today. It will be section 4, item J. Okay.
And that's the end of my ARPA report unless anybody has any questions. And if you run into any questions during the month, just email me and we'll try to get you additional data too.
You said they had till April 15th or March 15th?
I'm sorry, did I say April?
You said April. You said
To
April.
get the estimates.
Yeah.
It was April is what I was thinking.
So if I'm understanding this
Well,
correctly,
sure.
these are all on hold till the date.
That's right.
So
Well,
there's
some-
really nothing to discuss here.
That's right.
Okay.
There's no movement on any of these until we get numbers, and then we rack and stack them from there,
Okay.
And if you,
which is what we decided to do last time.
and then if you look at them in the April meeting, then we can adjust the budget that we give to you guys in May to actually include the actual amounts that you want or would approve.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions on the ARPA report? The next item, G, I'm just going to strike through it. It was the revenue analysis. The trustee has to the 10th of the month, which was Friday, and she got it in late to us on the 10th, which is fine, but it didn't give us enough time to go through the information and do analysis on it. So we'll actually email that to you in the next couple of days with probably even more data when you get here because you'll have more time to look at it. And then the next item is this the Highway Public Works analysis, which everything still looks good, and then the financial statement memo just telling the county commission they're available, and both of those will need to be sent to the county commission. And then item J is actually the appropriation for $287.01 for a chiller from the local capital projects fund, and it does have adequate reserves to cover this easily.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All righty, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one?
Are they gonna get other estimates for this?
We'll have to bid it.
We can bid it, or is it just one? Have they gotten a bid yet? or-
They've got an estimate, we'll go bid it after it's approved.
Just for information, I met with a different AC company, HVAC company last Friday, and he concurred that this is at end of life.
Okay.
according to him, there are 3 manufacturers who do a really good job with this kind of chiller. And so he's going to get me prices on all 3, and I'll deliver those to the mayor. And just so that we've got a reference, and I can deliver them to David, you, or Matt, anybody.
Just to answer Don's question, unless there's a statutory exemption or a bona fide emergency, then anything over $10,000 is usually bid. So this will be, but they get quotes that kind of give you an idea of what we think it'll come back. And I think she put in a little bit of extra ditch in case it comes back higher because times are moving.
Will this need a second reading?
It will unless you waive it.
All right.
Do you want to, you can waive it, and/or we can go ahead and bid it and wait for the second reading because it'll take.
Oh, that's fine too.
Which way
I mean,
would you
either way,
rather do
that's-
it?
We can just start the bid process now, just to get everything going.
Since we know it's already here, and then put it on old business for second reading.
Mr. Mansfield?
You probably need to inform your company of the
What's the
sealed bid
motion?
process.
Yeah.
The motion
It'd
is,
be best
well,
if they just
Mr.
did
Becker?
there.
Yeah.
That way if we run into problems and it comes back.
Your
with
motion.
What's the motion?
Motion to approve.
From where's the funding source?
Local capital.
Local
Okay, so
capital.
it's not coming from ARPA? From
No, local capital. Yeah, we moved it out of ARPA to consider it separately from
I didn't
local.
hear that part.
Yeah, so that was why we voted to amend the agenda.
And we're asking you not
Sorry, I
to
need to speak up.
waive the second reading. That way we'll go ahead and bid it and we'll have the exact dollars next month. That way if we run into some kind of problem and everybody's bidding and they find a problem or something, we'll have the exact amount next month.
So the motion is not to waive the second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Okay. Moving on to old business. Collecting material receivables. Okay, this one, we're finally gonna get to this.
We're at the hour 20 mark.
Well,
Do you want to go ahead and talk about it?
I think, yes, I do.
Okay.
And I've got a thought here, but I'll entertain a motion for discussion.
Second.
Okay, great. I've got a thought here, and
This is in there.
I understand, Mr. Mayor, your argument that your justification referencing Tennessee code for why we should, why we are well justified in charging the cities the amounts you've charged them. I also, putting myself in the, if I were on the other side of this from the cities, I can very much understand why they would argue against it. So what I would propose here is that we, and I'm just putting this out for discussion, is that we come back with a different set of numbers that are equivalent to the previous amount charged, accounting for changes in inflation. So I don't know exactly what that would be, Mr. Long, 10%. We could come up with a number somewhere between.
It's probably pretty close to what Portland did.
I mean,
They
right.
kind of averaged it out, so it's probably,
If, and I realize we may be leaving money on the table, but I also realize there would be a really hard fight to get there. So, how much do we want to fight on this, and what's the probability that we would get it?
if we're wanting to go that path, I think the estimate from Portland looks pretty reasonable, and it's already been sent to legal once. So it may be, if you're fine with the way Portland calculated, maybe just fine to have legal to contact Portland and agree to take the settlement at this point.
It's entirely up to the commission.
The law
This is a
is clear.
settlement negotiation, so.
Yeah, the law is clear that y'all have the authority to arbitrate any value. It's just the assessor has to report the full value.
The question is, does it need to go to the full commission to take a lower value since it's?
I would assume yes, only because the recourse would be to go after the city of Portland, and that's definitely gonna be a commission
Right.
decision at that time.
So you may want to send it forward to the commission with Portland settlement and calculations.
You
Mr.
said a
Klein.
minute ago, Mr. Chairman, that you understand the mayor's position, and I do too. You said you also understand the city's position, and I don't understand
Well,
that
the city's
at all.
position is you used to charge me X, and now you're charging me X times 2. What difference am I getting in my services?
So I think they're arguing that you negotiated a lower amount with them earlier. That's
Like
allowed
if
by
you were
statute.
getting a service from a HVAC,
And then the next year, they came up and they said, well, and, you know, I'm arguing against myself here, I recognize that, but like, I can get that, I can get that argument.
Is it beyond the cost, the increase in cost and just
Well, I mean, because
inflation and all that?
the question would be, I mean, what the argument would entail is, why were we billing them at the previous rate in the first place and accepting that for so long?
I don't know.
Well, that's going to be what's going to be in front of the court, and right?
That's exactly the impasse. I'm a big believer in having won your case before you get to the courthouse, and that's all the stuff that you're gonna have to be answering. And this may be a reasonable settlement offer, because you don't wanna pay a dollar to get a dime at all this either, so.
Clearly, this commission doesn't mind fighting lawsuits, but, you know, when you fight one, I want to win
Well,
it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't want to fight any more than I have to. I guess there's a lot I still don't understand, so.
You could extrapolate this cost probably 15 different ways, but what they've got looks reasonable.
Mr. Harrison, because you were in queue.
Where's this money gonna go? General fund?
It would go to the general
General
fund. It was used to
And it'd be
operate the
about $1
general
million
fund. What now?
Been about $1 million.
A little less. I think it was a 600,000.
And it was really budgeted out those years to cover the general fund, so it'd be
Mr. Becker.
good to have it back in there.
Where's the chart where it shows all the cities? I know I've seen
Well,
it before.
that was last.
Page 30.
That was,
You're wanting to pay $60,000 of what?
The Portland out of the 60, 248, and the 58, 002, they're proposing to pay. See, a minute ago, I shut my sheet.
They've already written a check.
They're,
Yeah, they wrote a check and we rejected it at first.
yeah, they already wrote us a check.
We were still digging into
But the
this.
check was for the full, the $60,248.
No, they're wanting to pay $60,723.54 for both years. One year
Yeah.
was 58,002, and the other year was 68,249. So they're paying us a little over
118,
50%.
they're willing to, or they're wanting to pay 60.
They're wanting to pay a little over 50% of the total. Because they're
What was their
extrapolating.
yeah.
Basically, if you extrapolated the years based on the average changes, that's what they would come up with. And we could extrapolate it based on inflation or average change or whatever, but there's an argument any way you do it, but it's a reasonable extrapolation.
And I understand our position too. I just, what's the cost gonna be to get there? You know? Mr. Mansfield?
I don't want to belabor this point, but what was the justification of the doubling of the charge was because of grant? Is that was removed, that was covering some of this, or what?
Yeah, we used to operate under two budgets, a reappraisal budget and an appraisal budget. And numbers were put in each budget arbitrarily. They're really never, because every function of the assessor's office is towards reappraisal. And so, once the grants were gone, when the state removed those, that was several years back, talk started about combining the budgets and just running under one assessor budget. And we got to the point where, at some point, we needed to do that. And that's when we combined it, and I sent the letter out explaining that it is going to be combined, we're operating under one budget, and that's what the costs are. Now, having said that, I also made it clear that any number can be extrapolated from that amount that you say we're going to pay or we're going to ask for. So if you want to do it by cost of living, you know, it's fine with me. The assessor's position is all we do is calculate the value, and then the budget. Y'all can make any agreement you want with the cities. The law is very clear in that you can agree to any value.
They did average change. So since the budget's never followed, you know, CPI, it's probably their extrapolation's about as good as any, if not better. It's reasonable for trying to extrapolate something based on the old one.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, and you could argue the other way is that
If I had CPI, the CPI's probably
we
better.
we were using grant funding, to cover operations.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, and maybe we shouldn't have been using that one-time funding for ongoing operations.
Well, it wasn't one time
Well,
initially.
yeah.
I mean,
The
no,
state
no,
kinda
no,
just
no
cut
offense, I
back.
mean, I
Well,
know I'm
no,
kind of
that
not
was-
meaning to throw
that was
shade here.
different. Yeah, that was something that the
State cut
Division of
back.
Property Assessments grant.
Okay,
Yeah, so it
recurring.
wasn't something
Yeah.
like we applied for a grant.
well, but that's the thing, with
money's
reoccurring funds, like, the grant is, you think it's guaranteed, we think it's guaranteed, but it's not. In any case, we,
Just one other question.
Go ahead.
On our financial statements, this is probably showing as an uncollected receivable
Mhm.
as an asset, but at the end of the day, it's still not in the general fund, so this is gonna be additional cash.
that's right.
that We've got to burn.
That's right.
Yeah, you've got it, you need the cash. It was budgeted as original revenue, so it came out of your fund balance when you get it collected. It'll go back into your fund balance where you're gonna need it in the long
Look,
run.
I know where I'm at on this. At the end of the day,
Yeah, I
we
just
can
wanna be
get
sure
X
where I'm
now, or we
looking
can
at.
fight all day long and probably not get that much more.
And it gets it off the boat.
That's it.
So this is Portland. So what have we heard from Hendersonville, Gallatin, and Goodlettsville?
We haven't heard anything, right? I think we're
No,
waiting for
I
that to
think,
drop.
Can't remember, one city paid it.
Some of the other ones have paid it earlier.
Some of the
since
smaller ones, paid
So
it.
would we owe them a little money back?
No.
Well, this
We don't know
page
the-
30, whatever page number, it says 30, I
Tells us
mean, it's
what's
got
going.
those 4 cities that are outstanding balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They're in
That's
there.
right.
Correct. And so we're talking about Portland, yeah, I'm curious.
Well,
I mean, is Hendersonville gonna pay us anything?
Well, no, we should still come back, right, but
It just gets
Pending-
Gallatin off your books.
Do I?
It's only getting Gallatin off your books. I'm sorry, not Gallatin.
Portland.
Portland.
we still have to do that, but at this point, we know with a line in the sand
But
for
what
how
is-
much we're
what is
asking.
Has Hendersonville, Gallatin, and Goodlettsville just ignored our requests?
Pretty much.
That they don't wanna pay anything?
To my understanding.
Well,
But that's,
I've talked with them, but, no payment.
but here's but I mean, here's the thing, we're in this, go ahead, Mr. Klein.
Well, you know, if there's services that are being rendered by us, can we not put hard numbers to those?
Well, that's,
I mean, rather than worry about CPIs, let's talk about real dollars here.
They're debating the numbers is the problem. They're
Right.
debating, they're wanting to argue you shouldn't include everything in the cost of appraisal. That,
they're arguing overhead
MTS
versus,
basically did it.
they're saying, what their argument is, I mean, if you think of it in terms of business, from my understanding from the county mayor's discussions, there's 2 buckets. And if the best way I can think about this is, the cities are arguing that we're charging them for overhead as opposed to direct services rendered.
They're saying we're gonna have to pay it anyway.
Our overhead costs us something.
Yeah, but the cities are saying
You have to
that
pay for it
you
anyway.
have to pay for it anyway. I mean, that's just cost operating. I'm not saying that I agree with it, I'm just saying that that's gonna be their argument, and we're gonna have to fight a lot in
That's
court.
lousy logic.
Well, they have,
Well, we shouldn't have
CTAS
been
position-
charging them previously on the amount we did.
Yeah, CTAS agrees with this position here. MTAS has an attorney that doesn't. So that's where the rub is. MTAS says that we shouldn't have to pay it, or the city shouldn't have to pay because it's services that we already do.
Shouldn't have to pay anything, or shouldn't have to pay this amount?
They said it shouldn't have to pay anything.
But that's not what the statute says.
But, yeah, it's completely contrary to the
Well, let's
statute.
stop providing.
So, well,
Oh, I said that we can't keep the rolls. I've already asked. them to
That'd
keep the
create a
property tax
bigger
roll.
nightmare.
I've asked earlier, we physically cannot withhold their tax rolls for this payment.
Right.
They need to change the statute to allow us to do that, then that would fix the issue.
well, I think we could also, there are things we could do with a resolution on this too, potentially, when we've discussed this, but that's for future
For a
discussion.
future discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a motion to approve the settlement from Portland. And then a
Correct.
second on the floor, right?
Correct.
And, so, I think somebody made that motion. That was a motion. Was that a motion?
Or no, there's a motion for discussion, I'm sorry, so we need to entertain that motion then.
I'm not making it yet, but obviously, you got 3 cities who haven't even offered anything. They're looking at, okay, it's 50% cut right here, so I mean, we're just, negotiating down our position with all these other ones, we just know what we're doing
That's-
there.
that's
So,
right.
At a base starting point. But right now, I mean, these 3 cities are refusing, I guess, to pay, or just these, are all of these 3 other cities just refusing to pay?
Right. They're wanting one of them's wanting another attorney general's opinion, which I would think that a new Attorney General will affirm what his predecessor said, especially since it's on solid standing.
The upside to this is, one more city pays, it's more precedent that, you know, they should pay at a higher, or lower rate than we wanted, but
We're just saying, hey, well, if we want to accept this deal, or do we want to go to
That's
court
right.
and
And-
spend money and not get anything?
that's potentially, we take a risk, I mean.
Are they gonna do this every year? Is this setting a precedent that the
Well,
states can come back and
I
say,
mean, yeah, it is set, but, well, but the argument, we already set the precedent. We set the precedent because we previously charged them too little, which is why they have a good argument to begin with. That's the problem.
You can make this a conditional acceptance, that from this point forward, it is what we say it is, just to try to negate some of this in the future. It doesn't just have to be a matter of taking the money and walking away.
So you make it
Because
a
you
one-time
could,
deal.
this is just Portland.
That's
So
true.
if Hendersonville comes up, this is a whole separate conversation.
That's true.
So
Conditional.
move.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Since it's
Okay.
not appropriation, it's going directly to commission, correct?
Yeah, no, I understand. A conditional,
Yeah,
a conditional acceptance of their
For
offer
this.
for Portland only.
Correct.
B1, we're still waiting on bid specifications, but it may be just as advantageous to move this into next year's budget. We're already, what, March, April, May, June?
But yeah, that's fine with me.
Can we just-
I try not to make motions on my own. Did you guys hear that? Mr. Long, say that again, please?
Since
On the
we're
jail
already up
elevators?
into March and we're still waiting on bid specifications for the jail elevator, or to bid it, I think it may be just as advantageous to move it into next year's budget.
The jail will move it into next year's
The
budget.
elevator for it,
I'd entertain that motion.
because you're talking June 30.
All right, any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And then the next one's the election commission.
Okay, so 1A, 61,779.26. This is for part-time personnel. I'll entertain a motion for discussion.
I make a motion.
Okay, so I guess I'll ask you the question I always ask. How many funds does the election commission have on hand right now? Is anyone not getting paid?
We're still paying them until we're told otherwise. And if they work, we're gonna have to pay them anyway. When I looked at it the other day, I forget what date I printed this, if they are over 13,473 right now in part-time, but their overall budget's not over. I mean, it's
So they can
okay.
they can continue to
They could-
transfer.
They could still transfer
Okay.
for what they've done so far, if that was the
So
goal.
there is total budget in the election commission to continue to keep people paid, assuming they make those transfers.
And they've got a few transfers over, I think they got a small transfer here tonight already.
All right, so, I would entertain a motion to deny this.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, one opposed. Mr. Harrison. Item B is move to the TRC. I'll open discussion then, or I'd like to entertain a motion for discussion here and then get in queue.
Second.
Okay, so didn't this already get denied by General Ops?
Yes, last week.
So why is it on here?
Old business, so.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, well, I don't remember.
This is really the area of general ops, and I have no idea why this wouldn't be on budget.
Yeah, so I think we should strike this. And I mean,
Motion to,
go ahead.
I make a motion to remove this from it and just
Yeah.
table this. From our-
It's already been. It's a motion to reconsider the agenda.
Well,
I'm just making a motion to table.
table
this
it,
as
yeah,
agenda item.
but lay it on the table. Yeah.
I'm seconding it.
All right, any discussion? Oh, Mr. Becker?
What is the latest, like, what is,
The General Ops Committee voted, I believe unanimously, to keep the election commission here in the county building, right?
Point of order. motion to table it and have
Yeah.
discussion, so we get it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, still, I answered him.
I'm just telling you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Can I put a point of clarification on A to make sure that they're not over at this point, I'm not saying for sure they won't go over this year on item 1A.
Well, that's-
Was I clear about that? Make sure I did.
Yeah, but I mean, as of right now,
As of today, they're.
as of today.
They can move between line
They can
items.
move between line items, and so this can come up next time.
Okay. There's enough
And we're
there.
getting very close to our next budget, so. Okay. Highway 300, well, this is in the,
ARPA.
this is in ARPA, this shouldn't be on here.
Well, it is included in ARPA. The reason we do it is something's an old business, the way it won't magically disappear, we're just noting that.
Okay.
When people start trying to follow the agenda, it's very hard. And then item C3 is the one from the mayor, and I think there was additional data he was gonna bring this month about it, what it would be used on.
Mr. Mayor, or,
Yeah,
oh,
we had
go
that
ahead.
in here, the uses. Forgive me, I've done
I'll be on C3.
C3.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Yeah, I do too.
Second.
As you-
All right, there's a motion and a second. Mr. Mayor?
Okay, you can see it on what y'all have is 132,
Page 46.
page 46, my fault.
Yep.
Okay, you've got the eligible uses. Energy and conservation strategy, technical services, residential, commercial, building audits, energy. It's all built around the energy projects.
What are we planning on using this for?
The difference is what you gotta do to.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get to that one.
Yeah.
So, because I guess, well, Mr. Mansfield, you go ahead. You're probably gonna ask the same questions.
Well, I'm just gonna say, the reason this is Biden's bill, I mean, if you read it, to tackle quote-unquote climate crisis, and, and had stated goals of building on an equitable energy economy to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. The county will be required to submit energy efficiency and conservation strategy that includes encouraging behavioral changes among the population, development of infrastructure such as greenways, and using wind energy, for example, for things like government buildings. I just rest my case there. That's not
And
something,
to tell
these are
you, I have no
requirements.
plan for
Okay.
These are requirements as part of accepting this.
I got it. So, I mean, all right.
And one other thing here on the next paragraph, this notice is issued so that and this is the notice, interested parties are aware of SEP's intention to issue the ILRAD and the near term. All the information contained in this notice is subject to change.
For $77,000.
Call the question.
All right, all in favor? Or all in favor of denial? Aye. Any opposed?
There's a prime example of where
Okay.
we tell you guys one thing and then it ends up being something else. That's why we were afraid to say anything about the settlement over here.
All
'Cause
right,
it's the
we're
same deal.
an hour, we're almost an hour and a half in, and we're at new business now. So,
Did we skip over the tractors?
those are in the ARPA funds. Those are concluded into that pile, which we're going to consider next month.
This one.
Okay. So new business under education. Item A1, this is the one for approval, and I believe is this the 14 million, 63 and 70?
So moved.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Move.
I
All right.
said, yeah, I
All right,
said-
so we have a motion to approve?
Move approved.
Move, and second. Any discussion on this? Go ahead.
Clarification, this is one-time funds. It's not recurring, it's not an obligation, it's not.
It's state funds.
I would like to just suspend the rules real quick and have Mr. Langford answer that question.
It's one-time money. The governor put it in his budget last year. It's supposed to start being expended this year. The simple grant application that the legislature requested is 36 pages. So it has about 275,000 lines. So as you can imagine, we applied for it in February, so this expenditure is around 750,000. And it's just to order equipment and things that we can actually get into the hands of kids by the start of next school year. So then what'll happen is it'll go through the process of, basically either in next year, but we're still checking to see exactly. It'll either be in our budget, or it'll be like, where we have this process where the state kicks the revenue back to us, and then we have to reapply, reallocate. My understanding is we'll be able to just budget the 15 million, so everybody will be able to see what that is, but it's the majority of it's equipment.
Does this increase our maintenance of effort?
Yeah, Mr.
Well, yeah, that was a question I didn't get back from Dr. Phillips was, do we have any housing requirements additional to this?
No, so this is mostly like drones and welding equipment, blood pressure arms for people to check blood pressure. It all goes through existing programs.
Let me just
And facilities.
clarify on
What's
the,
that?
And facilities, sorry.
go ahead.
He said he's not storage, it's not, you don't need to build a new
No,
building.
it's going in existing classrooms.
So, no maintenance contracts, no personnel, nothing signed up for that will take us beyond one-time funds.
It's just a
Okay.
one-time funding.
And the other thing that I asked him was, there's not any differentiation between academic teachers to the CTE teachers. We're not going to be taken away from one to give to the other.
No, this is all equipment purchased. The terms of the governor's allocation is that it goes into career technical program. So it's all to CTE teachers. We're trying to, at least in terms of the way we talk about it, we say that everybody's pursuing a career post high school, but this money won't go into English classroom or math classroom. It's going to all go to.
Well, yeah, I know, okay.
Yeah, health sciences.
I just want to make sure that no academic teachers are going to be, axed in order to.
No. This is all just equipment to supplement existing programs.
Okay.
What's the total? 14.5.
But this first purchase for
First
$750,000.
purchase is 750,000. We have 3 years to spend it, but.
This is for the budget, 14.5. We're approving that whole lot right now, right?
We're approving 750,000.
Okay, I thought
Yeah,
it
it's
was-
just for the, it was just for the list that was in
In
there.
the past, we had to allocate all the money. Like, for instance, if you look at it, that would be federal, but just as a comparison. When we do an ESSER application, we have to allocate every penny, even though we had 3 years to spend it, and then they would go through the reappraisal. So the way that they have us doing this one is whatever we're not spending this year, we put into another line that just is basically it's like a reserve for future years. It's really confusing, so rather than that, we just put the money that we're actually gonna spend, what you're approving to be put into our line, so we can pay for it. So it's about 750,000.
But the total from the state will be 14.5.
Right.
I think that's great.
Median for high school and
it's
median
that
for
right
middle
there.
school.
1 million for high school, 500,000 for middle school.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve in a second. Any further discussion or any questions, Mr. Langford? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. Okay. Mr. Long, with budget amendments, these are just informational, 71 through 125. I don't think we need any discussion here.
Education, think those on, I believe.
Yep. All right.
We need to wait a second.
On the education one, it's flow through, I believe, isn't it? Yeah,
It is.
I just want to make sure.
I don't think so.
What he said?
It's flow through funds. Okay. Flow through. That's why I'm kind of trying to separate them out. If you look at B1, A, B, all the way through, C and all those are actually all flow throughs, which will require one reading. I can go through each one of them real quickly if you want me to.
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, group improvement, A, B, and C.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
That was A through C? I'm
A through
sorry.
C and all the subcomponents.
Item 2 is just a 48-month lease for the register of deeds. Really, when you have a multi-year contract, you really have two choices. One, put subject to appropriations, or two, have the county commission approve it, because it will require an appropriation in the next fiscal year. A lot of times for like the leases and stuff, if they're from a large company, you have trouble getting subject to appropriation language. So that's what happened in this instance. So she's asking for approval for release by the county commission.
Do we know what it is, how much it is?
It's attached to that. Can't
Yeah.
recall.
We have a motion in a second, but we'll get that answer.
Is this 21,000? Is this the 48 monthly one?
No, it's on page.
$445 a month, I think, is what it is.
$445 monthly payment.
Okay,
That's the 48 monthly?
yeah,
Yes,
that's great.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
it's a big one.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
The next one's for risk management. Their cyber policies came in more than they anticipated, and also we pay some insurance, I believe, for one of the EMS stations. We share the cost with the city. This one, if we could we waive the second reading, because I've actually already got a bill for the cyber policy, and the vendor says it was due back on the 24th of
So moved to
February.
waive the second policy. Second approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. Transfers.
The next group is items A, B, C, D, and E are transfers for salary-related line items, and none of them are really.
Motion group and approve A through E.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Item 2 is the other budgetary. If anybody's got any question, there wasn't anything that really
Jumped
grabbed
out.
my attention
No.
there either.
Move the group and approve D 1 through 4.
Second.
What about two?
C2.
I'm sorry.
I thought you.
Yeah, we haven't,
On D also.
we're on C2.
C2 didn't have a vote.
So is there C2, there's neither of those?
Yeah,
There's another thing that.
C2.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty.
I move the group and approve D 1 through 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One more.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Done.
Not bad, an hour and about 40